When we switch our attention between different tasks, that is not only less productive for us, but it's really demanding on our brain, meaning we're going to feel tired a lot sooner.
It's not enough to just be an architect, a creative professional. The real question is, what are you doing? How are you making an impact if you don't know how to answer that question, or you feel too overwhelmed, stressed out, or burned out to even think about it? I'll help you get beyond the status quo trap in our profession to get inspired again. If you're ready, let's get architecting.
Hey Bright Lights, welcome back to the Architecting channel. It is so good to have you here. We are already in November 2025, and I don't know about you, but I am looking forward to kind of settling in. The weather's finally getting a little bit cooler. Fall is my favorite season, and because we've had such an extended hot period, it's like summer just goes into overdrive. Only now are the leaves starting to change and really getting that beautiful season that is my personal favorite out of all of them. I finally wrapped up conference season and a lot of travel associated with it. A lot of good connections and good experiences, but realized after coming back from my latest conference, which required me to leave on a Saturday for events that started that evening and not get back home until the wee hours of Wednesday morning, and having to work on Wednesday and the rest of this week, that I'd really not gotten any weekend, any break, and no wonder I was struggling to focus. I was reconnecting with a lot of colleagues at this conference, and they're saying, "What's going on?" And I'm telling them about my Saluda Genesis card deck, which I developed to help share the work that I'm doing. And you can see that on my Architecting YouTube channel. There is a specific playlist called Space Doctor where you can see that and how that led to being offered a publishing opportunity. And I'm currently writing a book on Saluda Genesis. It was great sharing that, great seeing the interest that people had in both of those projects. But I realized I haven't really done anything to advance either one in a couple of months. And that's because finishing up the card deck and writing a book both require a lot of sustained focus, something that has been in short supply for me. I even joked to someone that I feel like I've developed ADHD over the years because there are so many demands on my time, so much pressure to multitask. I'm sending emails while I'm on Zoom calls. I'm sure you have this experience as well. Clearly, this isn't healthy. We know research on multitasking says it makes us less productive, not more. But I find I have no focus at all lately unless I'm doing multiple things. So I wanted to look into that and share with you some of what I've found. So I'm going to introduce this term called popcorn brain. It is a real term, and it describes a mental state characterized by fragmented attention and a scattered focus that resembles popcorn kernels rapidly popping. Can you relate? The symptoms are things like stress, brain fog, impulsivity, even things like headaches or eye strain. So I looked into this a little bit more. The Mayo Clinic has a whole article on this about how it is so easy to just keep losing focus in the modern world because there are constant things vying for our attention. We're expected to be always on. And not only are we expected to be always on, usually attached to some kind of electronic device to do that, but said device, as well as others that may be in our digital entourage, are constantly giving us notifications, creating this urgency. Look at me, I'm important, act now, leading to a reduction in the human attention span. Our attention span has decreased significantly over the last 20 years. Shock, what has happened in those 20 years, right? The rise of digital technology, and with it, constant information pinging us in all directions at all times. We used to believe that technology would be the key to our freedom, that it would allow us to spend less time working. Well, of course, we all know that was a racket being run. We don't have more free time. We just all got more work, meaning we're all multitasking more. According to psychologist Gloria Mark, who has studied attention specifically, you can be engaged in something and put in a lot of mental effort, or you can do things that are not challenging but very engaging. She studied both kinds of attention, especially when people are using their devices. When there are times when you're both engaged and challenged, you have what's called focused attention, which tends to be late morning or mid to late afternoon, around 2 to 3 p.m. When you are engaged but not challenged, that is called rote activity. Now, lots of that happens online, i.e. doom scrolling, playing games, and you probably find yourself doing these things throughout the day. But the focused attention occurs in rhythms, and those rhythms, no shock, are corresponding to the mental resources that we have available. So when you are stressed out, when you are exhausted, when you are pulled in too many different directions, you don't have the resources for focused attention. Additionally, that time for focused attention has shrunk in recent years. This started getting measured back in 2004. They would record start and stop time and found the average attention span would be 2.5 minutes. But through the years, it became shorter. In 2012, it was 75 seconds. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's down to 45 seconds. You notice it in yourself. You notice it in the people around you. People are not giving things their full attention. They've lost the ability to be mindful. This actually rewires our brain, making it feel uncomfortable to be fully engaged in a task, making it more and more difficult to focus, making us have less and less attention available for the things we really need to do. Popcorn brain, this feeling that we have to be constantly paying attention to a lot of different things all of the time, is clearly not helpful to us. It doesn't let us sit and engage with the real world because we can't. We have these intrusive thoughts and urges to check things or to respond to screens that are constantly lighting up with notifications. Our brain has evolved to crave social reinforcement. And what is social media designed to do? Play right into that. It was designed for this. Therefore, it is addictive. We become more and more and more dependent on the feedback that we get. And of course, content developers who are smart are developing more and more strategies to keep us engaged. I get notifications now when people I don't even follow on social media make a post because some algorithm decided I might want to know about it. And that's just one more disruption, one more distraction that then I have to take time and figure out how to disable. Most of us aren't going to do that. So we just are on information overload. Also, these constant distractions have ratcheted up the emotional pull. They are constantly trying to evoke a strong emotional response in us so that we will give it more and more attention. They've started to gear their algorithm to looking at our interest, especially our latest search words. It puts us in an echo chamber of positive reinforcement of whatever we were personally thinking or feeling about something by only showing us things that match us. So we have literally the entire world of information at our fingertips, yet the information that we are exposed to, while overwhelming, has narrowed more and more and more in its content. We're getting flooded, but we are not getting more diversity of information. But by doing that, we are triggering the reward processing part of our brain, the part that makes dopamine and oxytocin, therefore making us feel more and more dependent. Even the apps that we use for work have started to mimic social media apps in order to be competing for our attention, in order to encourage a work day that completely bleeds into the whole day, including our personal time. You can see how popcorn brain is not just a one-time occurrence, but just like when you put a bunch of popcorn to a heat source, you might get one or two kernels popping at first, but eventually the popping rate goes up and up. And we live in a world that is designed to produce that effect. Now, on the other hand, being able to pay attention requires us to have a lot of cognitive resources. When we switch our attention between different tasks, that is not only less productive for us, but it's really demanding on our brain, meaning we're going to feel tired a lot sooner, even though we may not have increased our physical activity. So the more we have to regulate our attention by moving back and forth, the more of something called attention fatigue is going to develop, which means it's going to be harder over time to maintain focus. Do you see how this works? Lack of focus leads to lack of focus. It builds. It keeps increasing. Now, it's easy to blame technology because certainly that is a very significant root cause, but it also is a cultural phenomenon that we are less mindful in general. We do not give our whole focus to interpersonal interactions, to the activities that we do. If we really want to cure popcorn brain, we have to be in a different state of mind. It means we have to really try to calm that mental restlessness that makes it so hard for us to focus, that makes us feel low-key agitation all the time, that makes us feel less patient, more impulsive, that creates brain fog because we're tired, right? We have cognitive overload. All of this is impacting our sleep, which is only adding to the effect. So what do we do? The clear thing is to limit screen time, to consider digital detoxes. Those have very real and measurable effects. But it may not be practical to do that day to day. But what you can do is turn off non-essential notifications. That way you're not going to get all of those little pings that interrupt you. You can also create times of the day that are tech-free. You may have to work at your computer in order to do your job, but you can turn off your email and you can put your phone away. And you can have a 2-hour block of quiet focus time. Trust me, no email, no notification is going to come in, no Teams pinging. So we can turn off all these notifications. You do not need to be looking at Teams every minute of the day. You certainly can choose that you're only going to turn it on at certain times of the day, and you can put it on do not disturb the rest of the time. You can turn off Zoom messaging. You can certainly put your phone away, right? There's lots of ways here that we can get rid of notifications and unplug for blocks of time. So while we are using our computer to do work, the work we're doing is not being disrupted by all of these other quasi-social, business social, if you will, kind of programs. We can engage in focused activities. It's like building a muscle. There's such a thing called neuroplasticity. And what that means is that the neurons that fire together, wire together. Nice little rhyme to help you out. When we do something repeatedly, especially if we get these positive rewards for it, we form new habits and thought structures that become dominant the more we use them. But we can change that. We can choose to deliberately activate different thought structures, which will in turn either reactivate old brain structures or forge new ones for you. But you have to do it consciously. There are a ton of great books you can get on mindfulness. You can work on a meditation practice. You can just say, I'm going to practice concentrating on a single task for a set period. Let's say you have to read an article. Instead of feeling bored and distracted a couple paragraphs in, you can say, I'm going to commit to reading this whole article. If you want to read a book, say, I'm going to commit to an hour of time reading this book, and I'm not going to do anything else, and I'm not going to check my phone, and I'm not going to check my email. If I'm doing the dishes, I'm going to not just focus on the task at hand, but I'm going to focus on the sensory experience of a physical task in the real world. What does the dish soap smell like? What is the temperature of the water? Really, really focusing on all 5 senses that are going to make you more in that moment, and certainly choosing to do more physical tasks versus virtual tasks helps. A lot of the problem we are having with attention is that most work has become digital. Therefore, we are not needing all 5 of our senses. Mostly, we just need sight, hand-eye coordination, and maybe hearing. But if we were to do more physical tasks, all of our senses would get activated, and it would make us more present in the moment. So now we have to choose to seek out opportunities for physical tasks in real life so that we can keep that ability to truly focus and be present, active, and strengthened. And the last thing that you can do that will really help to simmer down that popcorn brain, stop the pop, if you will, is to have a routine. You may notice that when you are distracted so easily, your day feels more chaotic. You aren't having a sense of sequential anticipation of routine activities. Instead, the first thing you may be doing when you wake up is grabbing your phone, probably because it's also your alarm clock. But what happens when you turn off the alarm? You see all the notifications. So you're probably opening a bunch of apps. Before you've even gotten out of bed, you've already got your brain in this hectic, chaotic, distracted state that feels good, that feels comforting, that feels normal. If you're eating breakfast, you're probably on your phone looking at things the whole time instead of focusing on what your food tastes like. On your commute, you probably are adding a lot of things in, and maybe it would be good to just listen to a meditation or a mindfulness practice or do some things on your own so that you can kind of decompress and focus. When you are at work, even though most of us are doing work in the computer, Try to schedule face-to-face meetings whenever possible, having no media rule in those meetings so that maybe the person presenting has a computer, but others are encouraged not to do that. Start taking notes by hand. This has really helped me a lot to physically have to write. My handwriting had gotten bad because I had started just doing all the notes digitally. But there's something about the physical act of writing that helps you learn the information better than if you type it into a device. Make sure you are making time for physical activity throughout the day. So maybe there's time you're going to gym or going to a yoga class or taking a walk. But maybe there's also time that you're just going outside for 5 minutes and really taking in the time of day, the temperature, the weather, the season. Do things regularly so that they become habits that focus you to be tethered to the real world. And the more you do this, the more you're going to build that muscle. So it's going to feel normal to you to do these routines that are part of not just physical wellness, but mental wellness. Remember that popcorn brain, which was initially coined by David Levy, who is a computer science at the University of Washington, for his observation that people were so hooked on electronic multitasking that the slower paced life held less interest for them, is a choice. Yes, we have been enabled by social media, by algorithms, by the changing way that work is done to develop popcorn brain. We can recognize that this is not good for us. This is not helpful. It causes us to mirror ADHD type behaviors, even if we don't actually have ADHD. Claw back your concentration, your focus, your attention, your ability to retain information and follow multi-step directions, to be more patient, to procrastinate less, to feel less overloaded and anxious, to be more emotionally regulated, more interested, more invested, and less mentally exhausted by developing better habits and better digital practices so that you can stop the pop and get back to normal brain function. Trust me, you will feel better. There may be a whole generation in the workplace now with Gen Z, even some millennials that have never experienced not having popcorn brain. This is your chance. Now that you know about it, you can do something to make that change. Let me know. You can email me, Angela@architectingpodcast.com. You can reach me on social media and let me know what you are doing to stop the pop. More importantly, how you feel because you did it. Take care, everyone, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. If you want even more content, head on over to architectingpodcast.com and subscribe to my newsletter and get some great free downloads while you're there. Be sure to follow me on social media. On Instagram at Architecting Podcast, Facebook and LinkedIn pages are Architecting, and the YouTube channel Architecting Podcast. Stay inspired.